Have you ever had that feeling when you're somewhere new but something just feels off? Like nothing's actually wrong but your body knows before your brain does? That was me, standing on the porch of this little rental cabin in the woods, staring at the key under the mat, just like the host said it would be. Just like we were told, except something about it made my stomach tighten. I told myself I was just tired. The drive was long, and my wife, Mia, was already shivering in her hoodie, waiting for me to open the door. "Come on, babe," she laughed, nudging me. "You're not gonna stare at it all night, right?" I chuckled, shook off whatever weird feeling I had, and picked up the key. It was ice cold in my fingers, but everything out here was cold. I unlocked the door. Everything inside looked exactly like the listing photos. A little too clean, actually. The kind of clean that makes you wonder if anyone had ever really stayed here before. There was a faint scent of pine cleaner, but under that, something else. Stale air, like the place hadn't been opened in weeks. We set our bags down, turned the heat up, and made dinner. By the time we curled into bed, we had a fire going in the little stone fireplace, and the outside world was shut away behind thick wooden walls. The wind was howling outside, but inside, everything was warm, comfortable, until 3 a.m. I woke up first. I don't know why. No loud noise, no nightmare. Just awake, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding for no reason. Then I heard it, the soft jingle of metal. Mia shifted beside me. "What's that?" she mumbled, still half asleep. I didn't answer. I was already sitting up, pulse hammering. Someone was fumbling with the front door lock. I heard it clear as day. The scrape of a key, the metallic clink as it missed the keyhole, then tried again, and again. Then the slow, unmistakable sound of it turning. I shot out of bed, barely able to breathe. Mia scrambled up after me, eyes wide, fear hitting her all at once. Is someone trying to... Shh. I crept toward the door, heart slamming against my ribs, every nerve in my body screaming to do something. But what? I didn't have a weapon. I didn't even know if the door was locked. The key turned again. Whoever was outside was actually unlocking the door. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a heavy glass candle holder, and yanked the door open. No one was there, but the key was, still in the lock, still turning, ever so slowly, like an invisible hand had just let go of it. Mia gasped behind me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because my eyes were on the footprints in the snow. They led up to the door, but there were none leading away. We called the host the second the sun came up. I didn't even sleep, just sat by the fire, candle holder still in my grip, watching the door like my life depended on it. The host swore up and down that we were the only guests, that no one else had the key, that the spare had never been taken. "So then," I asked, my voice shaking, "who the hell was at our door last night?" Silence. Then, "Wait," the host said, their voice suddenly weird, strained. "Which key did you use?" I didn't understand the question at first. "The one under the mat," I said. "The one you told us about." A long pause. Then, barely a whisper. "I never put a key under the mat." Mia and I left that second. We didn't pack. We didn't ask questions. We just grabbed our coats, ran for the car, and never looked back. But the worst part? We left both keys behind. The one from under the mat, and the one still in the lock. And 3 days later, the host called back. Not about the door, not about the key. They just had one question. Who moved the furniture? I don't think any of us realized how deep we were in the woods. Not at first. We were used to the kind of camping where you're still close enough to civilization to get a cell signal if you held your phone up in the right spot. This wasn't that. This was miles from the nearest town. No service, no neighbors. Just a single-story hunting cabin, a pile of firewood, and nothing but trees. It was supposed to be a fun weekend. Just us, a few drinks, and the kind of dumb stories you tell around a campfire at 2 a.m. And for a while, that's exactly what it was. Until we saw the lights. I remember it so vividly because it happened while Danny was mid-story. Some dumb thing about a professor he hated. and suddenly, Bree cut him off. "Do you guys see that?" We turned. Just past the tree line, maybe 30 yards out, dim lights were moving between the trees, slowly, flashlights. At first, we laughed it off. Probably just hunters, or hikers, even though it was late, even though we hadn't heard footsteps, voices, or any sign of people all day. "Maybe it's rangers," Danny shrugged, reaching for his beer, making sure we're not setting the forest on fire or something. That explanation worked, until one by one the lights started going out. I don't know why, but something about that made my stomach knot. Not all at once, one at a time. The first light blinked out, then a few seconds later, another, then another. The last one lingered. It was still, almost like it was watching us. Then, gone. The woods were dark again. No crunch of boots, no distant chatter, no sign of anyone leaving. Bree let out a nervous laugh. "Okay, what the hell?" "Maybe they just turned them off," Danny said, stretching. "We're sitting here staring. Probably made them uncomfortable." We all agreed, even though I knew we were lying to ourselves. If they were normal people, wouldn't they have said something? Wouldn't we have heard them walking away? It was weird. But by that point, we'd had a few drinks, and weird didn't mean dangerous. Not yet. Then Mike got up to use the bathroom. I barely paid attention when he left. Just watched him shuffle toward the cabin, beer in hand, cracking some joke about not waiting up for him. We didn't. We sat by the fire for another hour, laughing, talking, trying to ignore that feeling of something sitting just beyond the trees, watching. And then, sometime after 3 a.m., we realized Mike never came back. At first, we figured he must have just passed out inside. But when we went to check, he wasn't there. His bag was still in the bedroom. His coat was still hanging by the door. His phone? Gone. We called for him, checked the cabin, the woods, even walked a good distance past the tree line. Nothing. It didn't make sense. The fire had been right there. If he had wandered into the trees, we would have seen him, right? We stayed up all night, sitting in silence, waiting for him to come back. He didn't. By morning, we were panicked. With no signal, Bree and I drove into town to call the police. A full search was launched, dogs, drones, everything. But they didn't find Mike. Not at first. The only thing they found? His phone, sitting right there on the cabin porch, like someone had left it for us to find. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. But the second the officer turned on the screen, we saw it. A new video. The last thing he recorded. The video was dark, shaky. Mike's heavy breathing was the first thing we heard. Then, his voice. Okay, I don't know what the hell is going on, but he let out a nervous laugh. I was walking back from the cabin, and I think I saw someone out here. He turned the camera toward the trees. For a few seconds, nothing. Then, a dim light, moving. It was far away, maybe 50 yards deep into the forest. Faint, flickering behind the trees. The same kind of lights we saw the night before. Mike hesitated, swallowed. Then, in the worst decision I've ever seen, he walked toward it. The screen bobbed as he moved. His breathing picked up. The light in the trees shifted, just a little, like whoever was holding it had heard him coming. But they didn't leave. They waited. Closer. The camera caught glimpses of movement in the darkness. Tree branches, roots jutting from the ground. The silhouette of something standing behind a tree. "Hello?" Mike whispered. The light tilted slightly, like a head turning. And then, it went out. The screen plunged into darkness. Mike cursed, his footsteps stumbling forward. Then he turned. That's when we saw it. Not a person, not an animal. Something else. Something low to the ground, shifting just at the edge of the flashlight beam. Not standing. Crawling. It moved so fast. A blur of limbs and pale skin. Mike screamed. The camera jerked sideways, crashing to the ground, landing on a tilted shot of the trees. We saw his legs scrambling backward, heard branches snapping, then a wet, guttural sound, a sound I will never forget for as long as I live. Then, silence. The video ended. 3 months later, they found him miles away, deep in the woods, half buried in a ravine. No obvious cause of death, no injuries. Like he had just laid down and stopped. The case was ruled an accident, lost in the woods, exposure. That's what they tell themselves. That's what they tell us. But we saw the video. We know what we saw. The lights, the thing in the trees. And the worst part, they never found his phone. The cops gave it back to us that night. We all saw the footage. Then the next morning, it was gone. We tore through the cabin, through our bags, through the truck. It wasn't there. We told the cops, told the town. No one believed us. Mike's case was closed. We don't talk about it anymore. We don't camp anymore. But sometimes, when I wake up late at night, I check my window. And some nights, if I look far enough into the woods, I still see the lights. I don't think any of us really knew why the cabin was so cheap. It was huge. 3 floors, an old stone fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the trees. The kind of place you picture in a travel magazine, with some couple drinking wine by a crackling fire. And yet, we got it for a fraction of what similar places cost. Should have been a red flag. But when you're young, broke, and just looking for a weekend to get drunk with your friends, you don't ask questions. We got there just before sunset, 4 of us in total. Me, Mike, Danny, and Bree. I was the first to notice how quiet it was out there. No cars, no distant sounds of civilization. Just trees and sky and silence. We set our bags down, cracked open some beers, and picked rooms. Everything was normal, at first. Then Mike went through the floor. Not all the way, but enough that 1 second he was laughing, and the next, his foot snapped through a rotting board, sending splinters flying. Jesus! Mike yanked his foot back out, wobbling as dust kicked up from the broken plank. Danny, of course, was already laughing his ass off. Bro, are you serious? He pointed at the jagged hole. You literally fell through the floor. What are you, 80? Mike shot him the finger. Maybe tell the owners to fix their damn cabin. That's when Bree grabbed the flashlight. I want to see what's under there. I don't know why my stomach dropped when she said it. Maybe I just didn't want to know. But she was already on her knees, aiming the flashlight into the dark crawl space below us. And then she froze. Not in a fake, over-dramatic way. Not like she was trying to mess with us. She just stopped moving. Danny frowned. Bree? She didn't answer. I'll never forget the look on her face when she turned to us, flashlight still shining down into the hole. There's a sleeping bag under there. Silence. Mike scoffed. What? But then I was kneeling next to Bree, peering into the hole and, yeah, a sleeping bag. A ratty, dirty, unzipped sleeping bag tucked against the far wall of the crawl space, just out of reach. And next to it, empty food cans, a crumpled water bottle, and a camera. Not like a big professional one. Just a small black camcorder, sitting there like someone had just put it down. My whole body went cold. Dude, Danny swallowed. You think someone's been living under here? Bree turned off the flashlight. Fast. She didn't say anything, just grabbed her bag and started throwing clothes back into it. Danny blinked. Wait, what are you? We're leaving. And that was it. No discussion, no argument. We all just knew. We grabbed our stuff, bolted for the door, and were in the car in minutes. I barely remember driving down that winding dirt road. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Nobody spoke until we hit the main road. It was Danny who broke the silence. So, we're not going to talk about the camera? Bree's voice was tight. No. Mike exhaled. It's just a camera. Probably been there for years. But I wasn't so sure. Because as I gripped the wheel, my mind kept going back to it. The way it was sitting there, like it had just been used. And the sleeping bag? It wasn't covered in dust. It wasn't dirty from years of being abandoned. It looked fresh. Like whoever had been using it had just left. Like they could have still been in the crawl space with us, watching through the slats in the floorboards, waiting for us to leave. 2 days later, Mike sent a link to the group chat. It was the cabin's listing. Same place, same photos, available to book again. We never told the owners what we found, never asked if they knew. But sometimes, I wonder, did they clean up the sleeping bag? Or did they just wait for the next group to find it? Sometimes we all just need a quiet weekend. No people, no plans, no worries. That's why I chose to go to our family's cabin. Between school and work, I had been on the go non-stop and wanted a chance to be alone. No work, no emails, no noise. Just me, a pile of firewood, and silence. And for the first 2 nights, that's exactly what I got. Then came the 3rd night, and I still don't understand what happened. The snow had been coming down non-stop since the evening before. Heavy flakes, thick drifts, the kind that make you feel like the whole world is shrinking. By nightfall, the wind was howling, shaking the little cabin so hard I swore I felt it move. Didn't bother me at first. I had a fire roaring, the thermostat set to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, a glass of whiskey in my hand. I remember thinking, this is perfect. That was the last moment I felt warm. I woke up shivering so hard my teeth were clattering. At first, I thought I must have kicked the blankets off in my sleep. But when I reached down, they were still there, wrapped around me. I could feel the fabric, thick and heavy. It wasn't the blankets. It wasn't the fire either. I could see the glow from across the room, flames still flickering inside the stone hearth. And yet, I was freezing. I sat up, my breath coming out in heavy, visible clouds. My pulse kicked up. That wasn't right. It shouldn't be that cold inside. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, but the screen was black. Dead. I must have forgotten to plug it in. My fingers felt stiff as I swung my legs over the bed and made my way to the thermostat, rubbing my arms, trying to shake the deep chill settling into my bones. The screen glowed a dull green, numbers flashing, 34 degrees Fahrenheit. I blinked. That wasn't possible. I tapped the buttons, cranked it up to 80. The system should have kicked on, blasting heat, but I didn't hear anything. No click, no hum, nothing. I stood there, breath fogging in front of me, the silence pressing in. My gut told me to get the hell out. I went to the front door, hands numb as I grabbed the knob and twisted. Nothing. I pulled harder. It wouldn't budge. I checked the deadbolt. It wasn't locked. I yanked again, putting my weight into it. It felt stuck, like something was pressing against it from the outside. The windows were next. I wiped my sleeve over the frost-covered glass, squinting outside. But all I could see was white. Endless, heavy snowfall burying the cabin deeper by the minute. And then, from behind me, the floor creaked. I turned so fast I nearly lost my balance. The fire crackled. The wind howled against the walls, but inside the cabin, nothing moved. I was alone. I forced a breath and tried to think. The back door, maybe that one would open. I just needed to get out, get to my truck and drive the hell away from whatever the hell was happening here. But as I moved, I noticed something strange. My breath. Slow, steady, little clouds of white in the air. And then, another one, across the room. Not mine. I went rigid, my entire body locking up as I stared at the empty space where I swore I had just seen it. A second puff of breath, hanging in the freezing air, vanishing in the dim firelight. I wasn't alone. I turned, grabbed the chair by the fireplace, holding it tight, my knuckles aching from the cold. My mind was scrambling for answers. It had to be the wind, maybe a draft, or the door rattled. Not from me, something on the other side. I felt my legs weaken, my hands gripping the chair even tighter. A slow dragging sound moved across the porch, then silence. I wanted to move, wanted to do anything, but I couldn't. My body was shutting down. The cold was inside me now, deep in my chest, making my limbs feel heavy. I needed to sit down, just for a second, just until the room stopped spinning. I sank to the floor, back against the couch, staring at the front door, at the window, at my own breath rising in front of me, slower now, fading. Then, everything went black. I woke up to beeping, bright lights, a mask over my face. I tried to move, but everything ached. My dad's voice cracked as he said my name. He was sitting by the bed, eyes red. "Jesus, you're awake." I couldn't get words out. My throat felt like sandpaper. A man in a uniform stepped closer, serious expression. A ranger. "You're lucky," he said. The storm was bad. We were doing welfare checks on all the cabins, making sure nobody was stranded. Found you in yours. You were... He hesitated. In bad shape. I tried to speak, managed one word. "How?" His lips pressed together. He glanced at my dad, then back at me. "We don't know," he admitted. "Your body temp was dangerously low. Hypothermia. Full collapse. If we hadn't found you when we did..." He trailed off. My fingers curled weakly against the sheets. My mind was still hazy, but something wasn't adding up. The cabin was locked. I couldn't get out. I swallowed hard. Door stuck. The ranger's brow furrowed. When we got there, the door was wide open. I stared at him. He kept going. Windows too, all of them. My mouth went dry. It didn't make sense. I couldn't open them. I tried. The cold sank deeper in my chest, not from the ICU room this time, but from something else. A memory, a breath, not mine. The ranger shifted uncomfortably. "It was strange," he said. "Inside of the cabin, it was colder than outside." He didn't say anything else, just gave me a look like he wanted to say more but didn't. He left the room, and my dad sat there, gripping my hand, telling me how much I scared him, how he thought he was gonna lose me. But I wasn't listening. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened to me, and who or what was in my cabin. I tried to confront the ranger, but even to this day, I have yet to get answers. I was 12 the night my dad shook me awake and told me we had to leave. Not just wake up, not, "Hey, we gotta go." He was frantic. I woke up to his hands on my shoulders, shaking me hard, his breath fast and uneven. "Get up, get in the truck, now." I barely understood what was happening. One second I was asleep, warm in my sleeping bag, dreaming about nothing. The next, my dad was yanking me out of bed, dragging me toward the cabin door. It was freezing outside, the kind of cold that makes your lungs hurt. Snow crunched under our boots as my dad shoved me into the passenger seat of his truck, slammed the door, and locked it. Then he got behind the wheel, and we left. No packing, no stopping. He didn't even turn off the lights in the cabin, just drove. I kept waiting for him to say something. He didn't. His hands were tight on the wheel, knuckles white, his eyes locked straight ahead. I remember glancing back at the cabin as we tore down the dirt road. I could still see the light glowing through the trees. The door was wide open, snow blowing inside. I don't know why, but that made me shiver. Dad wouldn't talk about it. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. I asked so many times what had happened, why we left like that, but he'd just shake his head and say he didn't want to talk about it. And eventually, I let it go. 15 years later, we were sitting on his back porch, drinking beers. I don't know why I asked. Maybe because we'd had a few drinks. Maybe because he seemed older now, and I thought he might finally tell me the truth. "Dad," I said, "what really happened at the cabin that night?" He didn't say anything, didn't look at me. Just took a long sip of beer, exhaled, and stared out at the trees. Then finally, "I woke up because I thought I heard you moving around." A pause. "But when I turned over, I saw you were still in your sleeping bag." He tapped his fingers against the bottle. That's when I heard the closet door creak open. My body went cold. He still wasn't looking at me, just talking, voice low, like he was afraid of saying too much. I didn't move. he continued. Didn't even breathe. Just listened. His eyes flicked to mine, finally, and I saw something in them I didn't expect. Fear. Then I saw them. A lump rose in my throat. Saw who? Dad swallowed. A pair of bare feet, he said, stepping out of the closet. I couldn't speak. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaled shakily. I didn't see anything else, just the feet, but I knew there was someone standing there in the dark, watching us. I gripped my beer bottle so hard I thought it might shatter. What did you do? What I had to. His jaw tightened. I got you out of there. Silence. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. All those years. All the times I had begged him to tell me. And now that I finally knew, I wished I didn't. Did you ever go back? I asked. He shook his head. No. A long pause. But someone did. I blinked. What? He cleared his throat. A couple years ago, I got curious, looked up the rental listing. I leaned forward, heart pounding. And? Dad hesitated. Then in a voice so quiet I could barely hear it. The reviews all said the same thing. I felt sick. What did they say? His fingers tightened around his beer. The closet door won't stay closed. 3 months later, I don't know what made me do it. Maybe because I'd had nightmares ever since that night on the porch. Maybe because I just had to know. But one day, I found myself searching for the listing. It was still there. Same cabin, same photos. The owners had updated it a bit. A new coat of paint, some rustic decorations. But everything else was the same. And the reviews, they sent a chill through me. Great stay, but the closet door kept opening on its own. Nice getaway spot. One weird thing though, the closet door in the master bedroom won't stay shut. It was kind of creepy. Did anyone else hear something moving in the middle of the night? Could just be the old cabin settling, but it freaked us out a little. There were dozens of them. I sat there staring at the screen, my pulse hammering. I told myself it was just an old door, warped from the cold. Maybe the foundation had settled weird. Maybe. But then I saw the most recent review. It was posted 2 days ago. Loved our stay. One small issue though. My wife kept waking me up in the middle of the night, swearing she heard the closet door creaking open. I checked every time, but I never saw anything. Then, last night, I woke up around 3 a.m. and finally caught it. The door was open about an inch, and I swear the text cut off there. I clicked on the review, expecting more, but nothing. The comment section was disabled. My stomach twisted. I scrolled up, checked the name of the reviewer. Just a random couple. And then, without thinking, I clicked book now. My hands were shaking as I entered my card info. My chest was tight with something between fear and stupidity. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going alone. I don't know how it happened. We booked the cabin weeks in advance, double-checked everything. The confirmation email, the address, the photos, it all matched. We even found the lockbox right where it was supposed to be, under the porch light, the key waiting inside. And yet, somehow, we ended up in the wrong cabin. Or at least, that's what they told us. We got there late, close to midnight. The drive up the mountain was pitch black, the road winding and narrow, nothing but trees pressing in on both sides. It felt like we were the last people on Earth. By the time we pulled up, we were exhausted. The cabin was a little smaller than I expected, but it looked just like the photos. Warm porch light, wooden exterior, a wreath on the front door. We let ourselves in, threw our bags down, and crashed. And then, sometime around 3 a.m., we woke up to screaming. I don't mean yelling. I mean blood-curdling, top-of-the-lungs screaming. I bolted upright, heart slamming against my ribs. There were people in the living room, a whole family, a man, a woman, 2 kids, screaming at us, their faces twisted in terror and rage. The man was already charging toward us, fists clenched, veins bulging in his neck. "Who the hell are you?" he roared. "Get the FK out of my house." I barely had time to react before he grabbed me, shoving me back toward the bedroom. Mia was already stumbling out of bed, shaking, trying to say something, but it was chaos. "Wait, what? Get out! Get out! Get out!" I held up my hands. We have a reservation, I swear." The woman was grabbing the kids, pushing them behind her, her face white as a sheet. "Call the police," she told them. "Now." The kids were crying. The man was still screaming. Mia was hyperventilating, and I just stood there, holding up my hands like I was staring down the barrel of a gun because nothing made sense. "This is our cabin," I choked out. We booked it for the weekend, look." I grabbed my phone, hands shaking so bad I almost dropped it. Opened my email, showed them the confirmation. Same name, same address. The man snatched my phone, eyes darting over the screen. I could hear the woman whispering something behind him, voice trembling. The man's face twisted. "This isn't possible," he muttered. This is a mistake." I nodded frantically. Yes, exactly. We must have, I don't know, maybe the rental company double booked or... "No," he said, shaking his head, and then his voice went quiet. "This cabin isn't a rental." Silence. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Mia grabbed my arm, her fingers like ice. "What?" I whispered. "We live here," the woman said. I turned, staring at the family photos on the walls, the jackets hanging by the door, the half-eaten dinner plate still sitting on the table. My whole body went cold. The woman took a slow step forward, eyes locked on mine. "How did you get in?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard. "The key," I said. "It was in the lockbox, just like the email said." Her lips parted. The man's face drained of color. "There is no lockbox," he murmured. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the key, held it up. The man stared at it, something unreadable flashing across his face. Then, without another word, he turned and grabbed his wife's wrist, practically dragging her and the kids toward the front door. I didn't understand. Not until I saw what he was looking at. The door was wide open, and the lockbox? It was gone. Not broken, not tossed aside, just gone. Mia let out a small, sharp gasp. "I locked that," she whispered. The man's jaw clenched. So did I. The woman let out a shaky breath, clutching the kids tighter. "We need to go," she whispered. Nobody argued. The family ran for their car, piling in without looking back. Mia and I stood there, frozen in place. Then, finally, she turned to me, her voice barely audible. "What the hell just happened?" I couldn't answer, because my eyes were still locked on the open door, on the cold, empty porch where the lockbox used to be, and on the faint set of footprints leading away from the house, into the woods. I found the cabin on an old rental site, buried deep in the listings. It wasn't like the usual vacation spots. No scenic photos, no glowing reviews. Just a single blurry picture of a rundown wooden structure, half hidden in the trees. It was cheap, secluded, exactly what I wanted. A place to be alone. I should have read the listing more carefully. The keys were in a rusted lockbox on the porch. Inside, the cabin smelled of old wood and damp air. The furniture was minimal. A sagging couch, a small kitchen, a single bed. There were no decorations, no pictures on the walls, except for a single handwritten note taped to the fridge. A list of rules. At first, they seemed normal. Don't leave food outside. Bears. Keep the doors locked at night. Obvious. Don't use the fireplace. Fair enough. Then I read the last one. If someone knocks once, ignore it. If they knock twice, run. I frowned. Probably some local joke, but something about it felt off. The first night was quiet. I sat by the window, reading, the silence almost peaceful. Then, around 1 a.m., I heard it. A single knock. Software muffled. like someone had tapped against the front door with just their knuckles. I froze, heart pounding. For a long moment, I didn't move. Then I remembered the note. Ignore it. So I did. And eventually, I fell asleep. The second night, it happened again. 1 a.m. Another single knock. No footsteps. No voices. Just one knock. Then nothing. I stayed awake for hours, listening. But there was only silence. The third night, I was ready. I stayed up, lights off, sitting near the door, waiting. 1 a.m. The knock came. I didn't move, didn't breathe. And then, a second knock. Louder, deliberate. My stomach dropped. I reached for my phone. No service. My rental car was parked 50 yards from the cabin, down a narrow dirt path. Too far. I stayed completely still. The second knock had never come before. Something had changed. Then I heard it. A soft scraping. Fingernails dragging down the wood of the door. Slow. Purposeful. Like whoever was outside knew I was listening. I moved carefully, grabbing my keys and boots. Then, a whisper. So quiet I almost thought I imagined it. "I know you're awake." My chest tightened. The whisper had come from the window, but the porch light was on. I should have been able to see someone standing there. There was no one. I didn't think, didn't hesitate. I shoved my feet into my boots, grabbed my bag, and ran. Didn't check the window, didn't look at the door. Just sprinted through the trees, straight to my car. I locked the doors, turned the engine over, and headlights flooded the cabin. For the first time, I saw it clearly. The porch, the door, and the deep scratches running down the wood. Not from fingernails, from something sharper, something that had been waiting. I never went back, never told the owner why I left early. But I still think about that last rule, the one I almost didn't take seriously. If someone knocks once, ignore it. If they knock twice, run. Who left that note? And more importantly, who didn't run in time?